G'day guys, welcome back to TradeTools Podcast, proudly powered by TradeTools. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Brad. I myself am a tradie, but I've recently hung up the tool belt to bring you guys podcasts and videos courtesy of TradeTools. So in this podcast, I interview tradies and people at different stages in their careers and from all walks of life. So whatever you're doing today, whether you're flat out or just kicking back, we'd like to say thanks for listening to TradeTools and enjoy. How you feeling?
All right.
So we have water here for the parched mouth.
Yep. We might go with that one first up, eh? Righto.
All right. So we've got Kim from Mahwen Concepts, right?
Yes.
Is that your...
That's my consultancy and business.
Okay, Mahwen
Yes.
Concepts, right.
Yep.
And what exactly is it that you do?
All sorts of things safety orientated.
Yes.
So from consultancy, obviously if a business needs one-on-one advice.
Yeah.
But the predominant that's coming through is from tradies that want their swims.
Right.
Their risk
okay.
assessments, their paperwork.
Yep.
They get the call to say, you need all of this updated.
Yep.
I have got a growing library that
Right.
you can purchase online,
Okay.
but a lot of them want it tailored. They're going, no, I do this, this and this. Can I have it all in one document?
Yep.
So I'll merge from your hand tools through to your silica dust, through
Okay,
to
right.
Anything that's machinery related.
Yes,
And
right.
try my best to merge it and give you one document.
So the work you do, is it specifically in construction industry, or do you
No.
do you also do like mining work, for example, or
Not mining, definitely not my expertise.
that'd be
That's a whole nother level
yeah,
in game.
I was out on the rigs for a few years, and the paperwork and safety side of it was huge, which it should be, you know.
Yeah.
And every day the amount of paperwork we had to fill out just per shift was incredible. Yeah.
They're, I guess, that leading partner in safety. They've been doing it for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And it filters through. But yes, you can't probably do much without signing a piece of paper on those ones.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, mine varies from water carriers, those
Okay,
that are
right.
filling up tanks and
Yep.
stuff like that, through to your electricians,
Yep.
construction, not necessarily your big companies, but guys that are moving up, through to the other one that's a little bit interesting is a makeup manufacturer.
Okay, right.
So most of their equipment and their plant is a little different
Yeah.
to what you would get in a meat processing plant.
Yeah, of course.
And it's always interesting when their instructions are written in French.
Oh, yeah. So do you speak French?
No, no, it's interpreted.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, we work through some of those instruction manuals and come up with something that's a bit more basic for
Wow.
the common user at the other end.
There you go. So before doing what you're doing now, what was your gig then?
So many moons ago, I actually did a physical education degree.
Okay,
So
yeah.
my whole passion probably amongst safety is ergonomics and making sure that the body isn't being adversely affected.
Okay, right.
That's a whole nother ball game under my safety consultancy.
Yep.
So I started with that for 18 years.
Yeah.
I've been on and off with Bond Uni
Right. Okay.
here on the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
So started in there in their sport, went through a few admin roles.
Yep.
Suddenly I got put into safety. I'm not quite sure how that
Yeah.
worked. Fell in. Apparently I'm quite good at writing policies and procedures.
Yeah, right.
Went from there, and so I spent probably about 12 years doing safety there.
Wow.
Family dynamics changed.
Yeah. Okay.
But now I tutor. Now
Yep.
I've moved to the darker side of,
Yeah, yeah.
of things. And so I've been tutoring at Bond Uni for about 5 years as well.
Right.
As well as doing the safety consultancy now.
Yeah,
So,
cool. So you're working both gigs at the same time, is
Yes.
that right? Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Far
Yeah,
out.
I like to keep things a little bit busy. No sitting down and being boring.
Yeah, absolutely. So a huge thing at the moment, we'll jump right into it, is silicosis. It's a massive discussion, and the legislation's coming up around it. But we just had a short discussion then, and the legislations have always been there. They're always there. But why is it all of a sudden the hot topic?
Yeah, so the requirement to reduce your hazards, manage your risks associated with inhalation of silica dust
Yes.
has always been there.
Right.
But in late 2018, I think it was September, October,
Yep.
there was a big spike in the number of illnesses associated with the inhalation of silica dust,
Yep.
predominantly in your benchtop manufacturing industry. Work cover, obviously dealing with the claims associated with that, then spoke to WorkSafe Queensland, the regulator.
Yeah.
And from there they went, right, we obviously need to look at the why
Right.
And it became apparent that a lot of people weren't following the basics, and now the regulators started to step it up a notch and going, the basic isn't quite enough.
Yep.
We've got people that are being adversely affected here, and let's look at it from the top down.
Yeah. So that, I guess, is that how most new safety amendments, maybe for lack of a better term, are initiated, from like a lot of adverse cases, and then all of a sudden they go, we got to look into this and step it up?
Unfortunately, it is the way it tends to go.
Yep.
You'll have injuries, fatalities, illnesses that start the discussion. That tends to be born out of the regulator, WHS Queensland, or state-based. Obviously, legislation being the biggest one that changed in 2011 for the whole country, with the big refresh there. But you do find WorkSafe Australia will do research and statistics in certain areas.
Okay.
They'll put out discussion papers, and from there the research will generate a change or a review.
Right.
But it's generally the legislation comes down and you got to start following it.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Yeah, well, if you don't, then yeah.
Well, there's some big fines out there that you can get your bum kicked, that's for sure.
It's interesting that, that's how it works. You say state-based. Was this not more of a national thing, or was it sort of predominantly Queensland-based too?
I'm pretty sure it has filtered. Queensland, obviously, from what I understand, is that the spike was generated through Work Cover Queensland.
Okay, right.
I highly doubt that we're on our own.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, other states have got other emphasis into other industries with other illnesses and injuries. But my understanding is that Queensland sort of is in the hot seat for sure, and probably sort of stretches into some of northern New South Wales, depending on where your predominant construction work starts occurring.
Yeah, right. So I guess, well, we probably, we have more of that benchtop making going on here, I suppose, So what else do you do in your job? Like, do you you go around and people will hire Mahwen Concepts to actually create their sort of safety paperwork?
Yeah,
right.
Yep. So I can start from the ground up. Literally from someone saying, I've had an injury, what do I do?
Yep.
And I can start talking, well, you need to look at this, this and this in the way of paperwork. Or it could be, I want to start and be proactive. I've now got 3 or 4 workers. I know my obligations, but it doesn't make any sense. Legislation's not written in normal words.
No, it's not.
And you got clause this, move from paragraph that to section this.
For sure.
Then you got to look up a definition and So
most of that back to front, or know how to navigate it.
I know how to navigate it. Wow. It's probably the easiest way. And I think for a lot of people, they just want it in basic terms.
Of course, yeah.
What the hell do I have to do to make sure I don't get that bum kick if an inspector turns up? That's probably the predominant driving factor. There's always going to be that, well, now I've got 3 or 4 workers under me and I know their families and I don't want them to go home hurt, injured.
Absolutely.
So they start that path. And we start from your generic swims right way through to JSAs, then your safety plans, if you need templates, your hazardous substances, all of that sort of stuff.
Right. So most of our customers are small business. They're predominantly small business, and I'm sure a lot of these guys that maybe have got 1 or 2 employees or whatever the case may be probably have along the way thought, like, at what point do I need to act on it and make sure, like, you always do have to, but to actually put some paperwork in place and have it more official, I guess. At what stage would you recommend someone looking into it and getting something together?
Well, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say from the start. Anyone that meets the definition of a PCBU under the legislation, so a person conducting business or undertaking. So an employer, basically. Your sole traders, you would argue, don't have to because you're on your own. But at the same time, it's only you. If you fell apart, who's going to earn the money for your family?
True.
So at least starting that conversation when there's 1 or 2 of you, you might already be doing it. It's just that you might need to put some dot points into a paperwork to say, we do what we do and this is how we do it.
Because I'm sure it's probably something that that gets swept under the rug a fair bit for businesses. I'll just do it later.
And the general conversation I sort of get stuck in is, but I don't do commercial work. I don't need it. I haven't got that foreman asking me. I don't have to do a 2-hour induction before I go on that job site. Why would I need it?
Okay.
The problem is that a lot of your small to medium business that are doing awesome work in the renovation space, whether it be from your electricians through to your chippies, their safety is important because the risk factors are still there. They can still have someone fall from a roof and injure themselves. They can still, like the solar panel issue, they can still have workers doing work, either they're unskilled and then are exposed to hazards that potentially injure or kill.
Yeah, of course.
So it's still there. It's just a question of whether you want to put it down on paper and ask the hard questions and pay the dollars for someone to write it for you.
Yeah, well, of course.
But a couple of $100 gets you sorted for, well, I say look at it every 12 months because legislation changes, guidance changes, your work processes change.
So let's say someone actually approaches you and starts from the start, from the ground up. What are the key benefits, I guess, for them to actually take the step and
as to, well, why? Why would you spend that money?
Yep.
For a lot of them, you might find that occasionally you'll put in a tender that needs to have at least a couple of templates, a couple of one-page policies, which is a good starting point. Having a couple of your policies, whether it be to do with environmental, which is a growing thing, as to how you deal with your slurry from your silica process. How do you deal with your waste? Are you permitted to leave it on site or are you permitted to take it away?
Right.
Believe it or not, that's actually part of now that safety aspect.
Oh yeah, I was working in civil for quite a while, and obviously council was all over that because it's pretty much, it becomes a sort of blame game. Like if they've got all their stuff in place, so that way they can throw it on us. If we have our stuff in place, and it all seems to be good. So essentially, what you're offering is like sort of a safety net for people to make sure all their ducks are in a row.
Yeah.
With safety,
the other part I've had it come at me from is from insurance. So I've had a couple of guys sort of say to me, hey, look, my insurer's asked whether I've got some paperwork on safety. And I haven't got anything.
Okay.
Does that mean premium's going to change? Now, obviously, I can't answer whether your premium's going to change, but hey, look, a couple of pieces of paper aren't going to kill you.
Yes.
Let's put a couple of things together, provide it to them, see if that's enough.
Right.
And then we can start talking about some of the other things.
Okay.
I'm very much aware that safety paperwork can be painful. It doesn't save lives. But sometimes the conversation opens up the thought process of, well, hang on a second, I actually don't do it that way. Or, I never thought about, I should probably be a bit more careful with that.
Yeah. Well, it is still a pretty active mindset, the safety, she'll be right sort of thing. And I was the same. I was similar until I went out to the mines and actually seen how fast everything can change and turn and get extremely dangerous. And then that really shifted my mindset towards safety. And ever since then, when OH&S comes for a visit, it used to be, oh, look, here's the OH&S. But now it's a welcome thing because it's I've had a couple of close calls in over the years, and if I'd have been doing things a different way, the correct way, I would never have been in that situation. There were some big ones, and now I look at it in a completely different light. You got to embrace safety. Yeah. Because otherwise, the kids might not have daddy anymore.
Exactly. I mean, I think of probably one scenario of elevated work platform with a couple of guys in the basket doing some work at 4+ meters.
Yep.
If they'd been trained in how to do a quick little pre-start check on the crane, they may not be crane operators, but at least run through it with the crane.
For sure.
That basket wouldn't have dropped 4 meters.
Right.
Now, the guys were fine.
Wow.
But holy moly, they never wanted to get up and work at height for quite some time. Now, okay, that was different in the fact that we're talking subcontractors to subcontractors, so it changes your dynamics.
Yes.
But at the same time, though, if those blokes just had 5 minutes to run through, the failing was actually a hydraulic cable on the crane.
Right, okay.
But if they talked it through, there's that knowledge factor that maybe that wouldn't have occurred. Yeah,
well, it's definitely something that, it shouldn't be overlooked, and it shouldn't be snuffed off and pushed to the side. Like it is, it's an important thing to make sure before you kick off a job, like you're going to do it the right way. Otherwise, it's been proven time and time again that safety matters. It really does.
I mean, you think about, like, I think of one of the most confronting things I've talked with the students that I tutor.
Yeah.
There's one particular, it's actually through WorkSafe Queensland. They've got one there of an 18-year-old female working in a manufacturing plant.
Right.
And it's what she did. She lived in one of the rural communities.
Yep.
She didn't think anything of it. They all just mucked in and cleaned up at the end of the night.
Right.
Now, her arm got stuck in an auger.
Oh, no.
And at 18, it changes everything.
Oh, for sure.
And it came down to the fact that they didn't have a process to actually lock out that piece of equipment whilst it was cleaned.
Yep.
They would lock it out when it was actually maintained by a professional, but not when the guys and girls at the end of the night would give it a clean. Someone inadvertently turned it on whilst she was with her arm in it.
Yep.
And I think for a lot of the guys coming through and girls coming through, it's really important to teach them at that younger age.
Yes.
Because we do have a gap.
For sure.
50 and 60-year-olds generally have that same, she'll be right, we've been doing this for 40 plus years.
Yep.
Nothing's happened to me. But things change, mechanics change, equipment changes.
Big time, absolutely.
So if we can teach our youngsters,
Yep.
me being not quite that age anymore, then at least we might at least have people asking those literally 2 or 3 questions with a bit of a safety thought.
Yep.
Might make some change.
For sure. Well, I think a lot of workplace injuries and accidents, like for that one for example, are caused a lot of the time just by not so much complacency, but just being unaware of the hazards involved in doing what seems like a simple manual task, and then all of a sudden it just goes wrong. And, you know, I was the same. And then I went and got heaps of tickets, like heights tickets, confined space. And you see all these examples of like anecdotal evidence of horrible stories. And all of a sudden your whole mindset towards safety changes like that. That should be a part of early learning, you know, once you're in the workforce, that should be an integral part of it, you know, to make sure that the safety mindset is there in the new working generation, because, I
must admit, I don't have the answer to it, but I'd be curious to know whether in any of the trades there is even just a small discussion on risk assessment, the ability, because we all risk assess. We cross the road, we look left and right. That is risk assessment. If we could somehow master just a little bit more than that to ask the basic questions, there's nothing wrong with speaking up and saying, hey, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, of course.
From a trade school perspective, then we might make a little bit of a change, but there's a lot. I know there's a lot those guys and girls have to learn when they're going through their skill sets.
Big time, it should definitely be a part of it. Like, it's an important part. It's one of the most important parts. You got to learn your trade, but you got to learn to be able to go home at the end of the day too.
I mean, you guys and girls are using more hazardous pieces of equipment. I mean, you're not driving a fast motor car, but you're driving something else that can do just as much damage to you. Of course. Having said that, though, I mean, there's just as many long-term injuries that are sustained from someone that's standing incorrectly at a workbench. Or it's got, you know, leg fatigue, DVT, things like that come in. But the ergonomics associated with work, the cost factor of lower back and muscular injuries can be just as long.
I tweaked my back yesterday. I was going out to our store down the road. I came back in here and I was just looking around for my gloves. I dropped my gloves, not doing much, and then all of a sudden, in the middle of my back, I'm booked into the chiropractor tomorrow.
Good work.
So all night. I even slept on the couch last night stupidly and woke up this morning I could barely move. But you know.
So injuries can happen anywhere.
They certainly can.
But I'm very aware that, there are certain tasks and jobs that the risk factor is far greater. And it's an easy saying that you're entitled to go to work and come home in the same physical and mental.
Yes.
So that's part of it as well, the big movement at the moment with the mental health.
Yeah, there's a lot of people doing some fantastic work in mental health, and it's becoming more and more easy to discuss, which is great. You know, that's exactly what needs to happen. But do you deal with much sort of mental health aspects, or
not predominantly? Obviously, not something I'm qualified in. I have been there and listened and counselled with injured workers, because once they're injured, there's a whole myriad of things that go through their self-worth requirements. And having an empathetic ear. But I don't underestimate the importance and the knowledge base that your psychologists and psychiatrists have.
Yeah, of course.
Just to give you some small tips and pointers.
Yeah.
Whether you're dealing with big issues, or whether you're just dealing with the small day-to-day stresses that are getting a bit too much.
Of course. Is there in the legislation about the mental health side of things, or is it more like physical?
Generally, it's physical.
Yeah.
Because I guess that's where our history has come from.
Yeah.
There is a little bit in regard to mental health, and again that you're obliged to make sure that you're not adversely mentally affecting someone.
Yeah.
But there's definitely not as much in the way of coach practices and guidelines associated with it.
And I suppose it's sort of a harder thing, like it definitely is a harder thing to put onto paper, I suppose, mental health. Yeah. It's not as simple as physical, And
I think it's slowly changing from it. In large organisations, it's predominantly sat with your human resources. Your bullying, your harassment, your performance management, all those sorts of hot topics tend to sit with them.
Yep.
But over the years, it started to merge quite rightly, within safety, because physical and mental is on the same equal footing, in my opinion.
Yep.
But most of the requirements as an employer would be under your human resources. Rather than your safety. But it's slowly changing. The corporate wellness or well-being being the hot topics probably for the last 5 years, where there's so much in the way of research that comes in from that. Happy worker is going to be a productive worker.
Of course,
where that becomes tangible and intangible probably works better in an office environment.
Yep.
On your work sites and things like that. There's probably some different, I haven't been exposed to it, but I would presume on your larger work sites, it's a bit more hands-on, a bit more blokey.
Yeah, it is, historically speaking, but definitely nowadays it's becoming more and more talked about, and people are more aware of the mental health side of it, and it's great.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely a huge issue with workers, whether it's construction or office-based work, Yeah,
and just acknowledging that for some people, their mental health isn't structured around how many steps they do each day.
Yes.
For some of them, it's how many volunteer hours have I done?
Yeah,
and so there is start now to start looking at volunteer leave as opposed to taking sick leave or taking annual leave.
Right.
So that you can do your volunteer work, whether it be in this country or somewhere else.
Yeah, okay.
Which could be all you need for your own little mental sanity to know that, well, hey, I'm giving a little bit back.
Yep.
Some of the other things that they're starting to sort of diversify, as I say, away from that being physically fit means you're mentally fit.
Yes.
Which is still important, but I don't believe it's the be-all and end-all anymore.
Of course, yeah.
Some of the other areas that they're starting to diversify into is acknowledging the feminine aspect of workforces.
Yeah.
A massive amount of research has actually gone into endometriosis, talking quite feminine here.
Right, yeah.
As to how much it actually costs the workforce and a lost productivity.
Right.
Because it's prevalent.
Yeah.
And women are affected by it, and as a result take sick leave.
Yeah.
Not saying that that's a work problem, but giving them some flexibility to allow them to maybe work from home or, again, if it's possible, or just to give them a bit of breathing space and understand that for a couple of days they're not going to be on their A game depending on how they're feeling.
Of course,
It's quite touchy and airy-fairy, but that's where some of the research is starting to look at. And
it makes perfect sense.
Tends to start with the research and the statistics.
Yeah.
And from there you can actually start applying some guidelines or some boundaries to it.
Yep.
Sometimes employers get lumped with a lot.
Yeah, I bet.
But you're dealing with humans. We're all different. We all structure our work-life balance differently.
Yeah, for sure.
Safety it's no longer just that bubble about, are you doing that saw cut correctly? Are you wearing your PPE, and have you filled in a piece of paper to say you're doing it?
Yep. So if for any of the listeners that might be looking to get in contact with you, how should they best do that?
Probably through the website.
Yep.
Got all my contact details on there through Mahwen Concepts.
Mahwen. So it's M-A-H-W-E-N.
Yes. An odd one. Since I was a little kid, I've always wanted to use my maiden name somewhere.
Ah, right.
My maiden name backwards. Go figure.
Okay, right.
Something since a little kid, I've had that dream to use it somewhere.
Yeah, cool.
And the concepts is the fact that I pretty much provide you with a concept of what you need.
Cool.
And we can work together and create it. So website from there, it's it's not massive. Number of swims, there's some templates that you can point blank pay for, and it gets emailed to you straight away.
So you just go through the template, the business owner, will go through the template and then just customize it a little bit to tailor it to their business.
Yeah. Done. So they fill in the front couple of pages.
Yep.
With their logo, what the scope, what are they applying this swim to?
Yep.
And they can pretty much have it ready to go.
Cool,
There'll be a bit of my branding on it, and obviously their branding.
So. Yeah, it's actually good to know that. I've been through, I've scoured the internet in the past trying to find a decent template for a swims form, and it was just a struggle. Yeah. It was hard to find.
So I've got a plain template that you can literally do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, right.
Or I've got one that, if you're going to go and use a grinder, there's one there.
Okay, so yeah.
But it's growing, we'll be honest.
Task specific. Yeah, cool.
Between tools and tasks. But I do tend to find that you get someone buy one and then go, okay, well, I actually need a few more, and they'll contact me directly and we'll work directly from there.
Yeah, cool.
So most of them are all pretty set in price. Where the variances come in is if you want me to consult, you want me to come out and do a site assessment.
Yep.
And work you through, okay, the bigger picture. What do I need to do from safety right from, your ergonomics through to your emergency management?
For sure.
Send me an email.
Yeah, cool.
Give me a call.
Excellent. And let's jump back to legislation really quick. I was meant to ask this before. For people trying to find small businesses, whoever it may be, trying to find specifics on, let's say, the silica dust legislation at the moment, because it is hard to find these specific requirements. Can you simplify that at all for us?
Probably from a perspective of finding out what the legislation is.
Yeah.
WHS Safe Queensland,
right,
the regulator,
yeah,
has got a whole section on there that links you through to guides, code of practices.
Yep.
Where it's probably difficult is remembering that your act is your big one that's got the wordies in it.
Yeah.
Your regulations tell you how to do it.
Okay.
Your code of practices breaks it down to be a little bit more practical.
Right.
That's where the mandatory requirements end.
Okay.
They will then produce guidelines, Australian standards, and there's a couple of work checklists that they might provide.
Yeah.
Unless they're referenced in any of those other 3 documents,
right,
you don't have to do them.
No way. Yeah. Really?
But there's always some grey areas in there, bearing in mind that legislation is written that it's the line in the sand for the minimum.
Okay, right.
If you're going to go over and above, then you might want to look at some of those.
Okay, right.
But you might find that, like, for example, with firefighting equipment, there's specific requirements in the regulations that reference an Australian standard. So therefore you must abide by that Australian standard.
Yep.
So I will be honest that the regulator does sort of spill those. It will say, here's the regulation, act, regulation, and it'll link you to all the other documents.
Right.
It's trying to remember that line in the sand of a must do versus you can apply this if you want. So that you're making sure everyone's definitely safe.
So, see, this is exactly why people should contact you.
Yeah, because I can tell you, you need to do all of that, but don't worry about Part C.
Yeah, cool. There you go. Well, need we say more? Is there anything else you want to discuss? Like,
don't think so. I think I knew you guys wanted to cover off the silica, and so I had a truckload of notes in case I got asked specifics to do with a tool or something crazy like that.
Yeah, we if you've got some specifics there,
It's more just, I know that there's a lot of information out there about on-tool dust extraction.
On-tool, yep.
From what I understand is a lot of it's coming out of the US, and I'm obviously speaking to the experts here as to which tools do it better, but I know that there's a lot coming through. The biggest part, probably from a safety perspective, is making sure that where you will get pulled up by an inspector is you've got all of that, you've got all the bells and whistles, but you don't take a look at the filters.
Yes, yep.
So they've got to meet the requirements specifically to do with those HEPA filters and the requirements and how you clean them.
Yes, yep, right.
You don't just go home and stick an air hose on them.
Yeah.
Blow the dust for miles and go, sweet, that was cleaned.
Yeah.
You've probably inhaled a whole lot yourself and the neighbourhood too.
Yeah.
So that part I think is really cool, at the fact we're getting tools now that are starting to do it locally.
Sure. Yes.
It's just remembering you got to go that extra step with cleaning them.
Yep, of course. And you've got to be aware too that a lot of, I don't want to say subpar, but certain tools are actually advertising their products as HEPA-like, or you got to be careful. And I've seen a fair bit about dust extraction and the different levels of it, and how specific it is, the microns, and the difference from one to another is incredible. And then they'll show us examples of certain tool claiming to have this amount, and it's nowhere near it. Doesn't nearly meet the requirements for that.
And it's so tough. Like how you honestly, as a trade person, is going to go, but I was sold it with this attached to it.
Yeah.
And then I would hate for the worst case scenario where you learn through someone being ill.
For sure.
That didn't meet the requirements.
Of course.
And it frustrates me because safety is not the easiest at the best of times.
No,
and now
right.
You've got manufacturers that are playing with the words.
Yeah, trying to
get you to buy it.
Make money on dodgy, inferior stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah. And the other part to it is with anything and everything to do with safety, you've gone through all of your processes.
Yep.
You reduced, for example, your inhalation risk of silica to the lowest that you practically can, using language in the legislation.
Yeah.
You have to monitor it. You have to review it, because what you did yesterday on that job site is not going to be the same on the next job site.
Yep.
And a worker will change. So you might find that, your next apprentice turns up, chucks on his PPE, and they've got facial hair. So you might as well null and void.
Yes, of course. Yep.
Again, I know it's a hot topic as to whether it's properly fitted.
Yep.
But if your control measures are that you're using appropriate RPE, respiratory, and it's not fitted properly, you might as well be wearing a basic mask.
I've got my breathing apparatus ticket and everything, and when we were on the rigs on wells that might have had H2S, we all had to be clean shaven all the time. Yeah.
And I don't know many tradies that are clean shaven.
No. Yeah, you put a mask over a beard,
especially by the end of the week, it's definitely not possible.
Yeah, for sure.
Rock up on a Saturday and you won't find many.
Yeah, so keep your eyes out on what you're buying. Don't buy safety gear on eBay. That'd be my hot tip.
Most of them have got that Australian standard requirement, and once they meet that, you can pretty much put it in the tick. It's going to meet the needs.
Yeah, because most stuff you buy on eBay won't meet most requirements anyway.
Saves you in the short term.
Yeah.
But to coin the old phrase, it's not going to serve you much purpose in the long term.
Yeah. In regards to, I keep swinging back to it, but something I don't know in regards to silicosis, because it's like an exposure illness, is there ways that you can actually go in and get checked and see if you haven't a level of exposure yet, or?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't honestly know.
Yep.
One would presume, from my basic understanding of how it affects you, I'm presuming it reduces your lung capacity.
Okay, yeah.
So there are tests for that.
Yep.
If you consider, your first step would obviously be your GP and just say, look, can I find out whether I am affected or being affected?
For sure.
It's no different when you've got noise hearing loss as well.
Yes.
You can definitely get that tested.
I've done that ear test twice, actually.
Yeah.
The first one was perfect. The second one, so the beginnings of industrial deafness,
I think selective sometimes can be convenient too.
Yes, for sure.
Most men I know would be conveniently to that high-pitched yelling, nagging tone. But all seriousness, it's not fun, especially if you're dealing with ringing and all those sorts of things.
That'd be
really impacts.
I couldn't imagine that. Well, let's wrap it up. That was a good chat.
It was good chat.
Yes. So,
hopefully I can broaden the safety concept.
For sure, yeah.
It's not completely boring.
No.
I am the weirdo that finds it interesting.
But it's something that should be embraced, It should be people should not look at it and cringe. It should be embraced so everyone walks away happy at the end of every day, It's an important thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well...
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Cheers for coming in. That was good. All right, we'll chat again.
Thank you.
Mahwen Concepts, guys. Get around it. Well, there we have it. Another episode wrapped up, guys. I'd love to hear your feedback, and you can email me at tradio@tradetools.com or message the TradeTools social pages with any topics you'd like to hear about. And of course, be sure to hit the subscribe button to keep up to date. Until the next episode, see ya!